Poštovana gospođo Kanals, predsjednice Medpana, uvaženi učesnici i gosti, drage koleginice i kolege, zadovoljstvo mi je da vas pozdravim ispred Ministarstva ekologije, prostornog planiranja i urbanizma i zaista se radujemo što smo domaćini Generalne skupštine, regionalne trodnevne radionice i povezanih događaja mreže upravljača morskim zaštićenim područjima u Mediteranu. A posebno nas raduje što se ovi događaji organizuju nadomak morskog zaštićenog područja Parka prirode Katić. Skoro 200 stručnjaka s raznih nivoa uspostavljanja i upravljanja morskim zaštićenim područjima okupilo se u Crnoj Gori kako bismo razgovarali o morskim zaštićenim područjima i njihovom efikasnom upravljanju. Kao što sam vidjela i u uvodnom dijelu, događaj ima i ovaj hibridni format i koristim priliku da pozdravim i sve učesnike i učesnice koji nas prate putem online platforme. Osnovni preduslov dobrog upravljanja zaštićenim područjima jeste sami proces proglašenja koji treba sprovesti na inkluzivan i participativan način kako bi ova vrijedna područja zaista osjećali našim i kako bismo ih bolje sačuvali. Crna Gora je tokom 2021. godine dobila 3 morska zaštićena područja koja se prostiru na skoro 5000 hektara u priobalnom moru Crne Gore. Naši parkovi prirode bogati su nevjerovatnim biodiverzitetom, prije raznim vrstama od mediteranske trave Posedonije okeanike do morskih pećina, uvala, koralnih grebena i slično. Ovaj uspjeh smo postigli timskim zajedničkim radom vladinog i nevladinog sektora uz podršku međunarodnih organizacija i projekata. Nedugo nakon proglašenja i njihovog formalnog uspostavljanja, upravljač javno preduzeće za upravljanje morskim dobrom Crne Gore otpočelo je takođe participativni proces izrade planova upravljanja, osnovnih dokumenata zaštite prirode koji se trenutno završavaju za Park prirode Platamuni, dok je u finalnoj fazi obrade za preostala 2 morska parka. Svjesni smo da je upravljanje morskim zaštićenim područjima izazov kako na globalnom, tako i na nivou Mediterana, posebno imajući u vidu sve ambiciozne evropske i međunarodne obaveze čijem ispunjavanju je Crna Gora posvećena. Ambicije za procenat zaštićenih područja u svjetskim morima i okeanima postaju sve veće, dok za stepen zaštite unutar samih područja postaju sve strožije. Stoga su ovakvi skupovi od presudnog značaja za razmjenu dobrih, ali i manje dobrih praksi, iskustava, izgradnju kapaciteta, posebno za nas koji smo na samom početku postizanja ciljeva dobrog morskog biodiverziteta. Ovaj događaj je i prilika da Crna Gora, odnosno upravljač naših morskih zaštićenih područja, morsko dobro, postane zvanično dio Medpan porodice, na čemu im sa velikim zadovoljstvom čestitam. Dodatno ukazujem na velika očekivanja koja od njih imamo za uspješno upravljanje zaštićenim područjima, ali svakako izražavam i podršku Ministarstva ekologije, prostornog planiranja i urbanizma i spremnost da u ovom procesu nastavimo da radimo zajedno i da dio procesa svakako budu i drugi stakeholderi. Takođe me raduje vijest da je za sprovođenje planova upravljanja za parkove prirode Katić i Platamuni obezbijeđena i podrška od strane Medfonda kroz projekat koji se finansira iz regionalnih GEF-ovih sredstava o kojima će biti više riječi u petak. I mogu da zaključim da je upravo kombinacija ovako stručnih dijaloga koje ćemo imati ovih dana u Petrovcu, predan rad naših institucija na postizanju ciljeva upravljanja morskim područjima i međunarodna kako tehnička, tako i finansijska podrška, najbolji temelj za funkcionalnu i pravu zaštitu ovih područja u kojima je dobar status biodiverziteta postignut ili očuvan. U nadi da ćemo prilikom narednih sličnih okupljanja imati priliku da podijelimo dobre prakse u upravljanju zaštićenim područjima iz Crne Gore, želim vam još jednom dobrodošlicu, uspješan rad i ugodan boravak u Crnoj Gori. Posebnu zahvalnost izražavam organizatorima ovog događaja, našim kolegama i prijateljima iz sekretarijata Medpana iz Monaka. Zahvaljujem na partnerstvu, na odličnoj organizaciji događaja sa dobro planiranim sesijama i radujem se našoj daljoj, vjerujem, još intenzivnijoj saradnji. Još jednom hvala i sada pozivam predsjednicu Medpana da nam se obrati.
Thanks a lot. Sorry, I don't need my translation now. Thanks a lot, Mrs. Novakovic-Jurovic, and also Mrs. Franeta. Good morning, everyone. Good morning and welcome to this annual workshop of exchanges of experiences of Medpan. First of all, on behalf of all Medpan members and partners, we want to thank the government of Montenegro for hosting us in this beautiful place, this beautiful country, and this very beautiful moment. Because as I was saying a few minutes ago with the minister, this for us is like a celebration to be here. We come here to work, but it's a celebration because being at the beginning of the establishment of the first 3 marine protected areas in a country, 3 really relevant areas in Montenegro, 3 really relevant areas in the Mediterranean, for us is a reason to celebrate, to be happy, and obviously to be supportive of what you are doing. And we are very happy because this is not just a decision of the government. This has been a permanent work of a team of people, including obviously the political will, which is crucial, but with a lot of support from the civil society in Montenegro and a lot of support from, as you said, from international organizations, some intergovernmental, other not governmental, that for years have been identifying the richness of the biodiversity of the Montenegrin coast and have been identifying all those elements that were the basis for you today declare these new MPAs. So the community that we are here today is the community that takes care of the management. So we are not the most relevant in pushing for new MPAs, but we are really relevant for making those MPAs really effective. And this is exactly the aim of this workshop, to work on management effectiveness. And why is important management effectiveness? So it's important because in the life of a marine protected area, there are several steps. Some steps are short. It's like in the life of one person. So the moment we were born takes just few hours. But then the moment, the time we spend in developing and doing our mission in this life, it's long, it should be longer. So that's exactly the same for an MPA. It took a while to do the preparation, to give birth to these 3 MPAs. But I think you are doing something very relevant in Montenegro. Is you don't just create the MPAs and say, okay, we have the MPAs. You are from the time 0 of the beginning of those MPAs, putting on the table the needs for management. And this is something that is what makes the difference for the quality of an MPA. If we start managing when you create, or you take a long time until you establish the management model, the management teams, the investment for this money, for this management. So then this MPA can last for a long time, hopefully forever, because what we need at the end in the Mediterranean, what we need in the world is to take care of those ecosystems in long term. It's not something that you do for 3-4 years and you stop. No, this is something that you start with 3 MPAs, and I'm sure you are ambitious. And in a few years, Montenegro, we're looking at the results of those MPAs. If they are properly managed, there will be more people, more politicians, more society will be more motivated to have more MPAs. Today we are under the framework of the Biological Convention, Biological Diversity Convention, they ask for by 2020 to have 10% of our surface protected. But now the new framework that hopefully will be approved in December in Montreal, in the draft, they talk about 30%. Maybe this will be approved or not approved, but obviously the surface proposed will be higher. So, and this is an ambition of the world, and it's not an ambition of the conservationists, it's an ambition of the humanity, because to have the right conditions to have a good life and to survive, we really need those ecosystems. And today we are facing climate change problems. For instance, this is quite clear in coastal areas. So maybe your coast here is more protected, but for the countries that are more exposed to the impact of storms, today we see that the climate change is being a big problem. And this big problem is not something related just to the fossil fuels, as most people think. It's related to the lack of understanding of our connections with nature. Our connections with nature include the ocean, includes the sea. For years, this convention has ignored this biological dimension, despite the big majority of the carbon that is moving in the world is linked to the biosphere. But we forget this. We were just looking at the energetic side, but the biological side of climate change is even more relevant, and it requires ecosystems that are resilient, ecosystems that support us in keeping this balance, and an ecosystem that can hold the impact of this climate change. So when we take care of our marine ecosystems, when we manage properly of MPAs, we are giving the society the model to really be resilient, to really be safe at home. And I think this is something we need to stress as managers as well, because 10 years ago, in the meetings of MedPan, it was not common to talk about climate change. It was not common to talk about resilience. Today, everybody talk about this because it's obvious. And that's even more relevant to establish new marine protected areas and to manage them with this multiple purpose of obviously taking care of the biodiversity. That's the first step. But by taking care of this biodiversity, we take care of the security, the safety of our communities. We take care of the maintenance of a lot of economical resources that we need to live, and we take care also about the future. It's not just an action for now, for 2, 4, 5 years. It's an action for the future generations. So I think that really investing on marine protection is the most relevant at that moment. Just going to the event we are opening now. Why we talk about management effectiveness? So, you know, MedPan, the main target of MedPan is management, is supporting those people that take care of the marine protected areas and supporting them by different ways. So sometimes we mobilize resources, sometimes we just organize trainings, we promote exchanges. We also represent them in political fora. So this support to the policy implementation is a crucial part of MedPan role by supporting the governments. In this case, in Montenegro, we will continue doing in the future for sure, but always putting the focus on the management, because it's there when things are happening that allows us to say that this is a protected area and this protected area may provide all those benefits. So that's why we work so hard. We work with scientists, we work with NGOs, we work with other institutions in the civil society, we work with governments, and obviously with the managers. So the public we have here today is a diversity of all the sectors. Sometimes we also work with the private sector, because more and more companies are interested today in supporting those policies from their economical activity. So we also want to develop this space of interaction with the business community. And all this we need to do well. So management is one thing. Management effectiveness is the creme de la creme. So I don't know how to translate in English. It's the best of the management. So we need to be effective. If we are not effective, the results we want to achieve will not happen. And the point is that it's easy to talk about effectiveness. It's not so easy to apply, because when we talk about management of marine protected areas, we talk about all this biological dimension, sometimes obvious when we talk about big species, sometimes not so obvious when we talk about connectivity how the larvae move from one MPA or from one extreme of the Mediterranean to the other extreme. So how do you manage this? There are things that are really difficult to be managed, and that's the biological dimension, but there is also the social dimension, because as you were telling me, you are also the minister for spatial planning. So this spatial planning has a lot of pressure and a lot of interest that legitimate, and this is also part of our society. And we need to take care about this other dimension, how we manage at the same time that we are in harmony with other needs of the society. So management effectiveness is also about this connection, the involvement of people on the decisions we take, and sharing this benefit. So that's why it's so complex. It's not just a role of ecologists, it's not just a role of economists, it's a multiple faces role that has to be faced with teams of people that really want to work together. So in this workshop those days, we will have different points of view that focus on management effectiveness, from the most technical at the ecosystem level to the others more connected with the participation of people, with the inclusion of science knowledge, with the reporting or the monitoring of this effectiveness, which is a big challenge. And we will also discuss a little bit about the effectiveness of the networks, because since the networks of managers, we are here to support the management, we also need to be effective on this, and how we measure this effectiveness of our role as a network, in this case MedPan, but also other networks. So we work in the Mediterranean, but we are also connected beyond the Mediterranean with other networks, because finally, the challenge of management effectiveness is a world challenge, as it is the conservation of the ocean. So I'm very glad to be here with both of you for this opening. We really want to provide to the Montenegro the best support in the new itinerary of management of these new 3 MPAs. And thank you again for hosting us. And thanks to all of you for coming. Sorry, I forget to give the floor to Ivana Freneta, the Deputy Director of this Public Enterprise for Coastal Management. Thanks.
Uvažena ministarko, uvažena gospođo Canals, uvaženi gosti i prijatelji iz Medpana, uvažene kolege, zadovoljstvo mi je da vas pozdravim na javno preduzeće za upravljanje morskim dobrom i poželim toplu dobrodošlicu u Crnoj Gori i Petrovcu. Javno preduzeće Zakonom o zaštiti prirode prepoznato kao upravljač zaštićenih područja u zoni morskog dobra i na današnji dan u zoni morskog dobra imamo 20 zaštićenih plaža, jedno zaštićeno močvarno područje i 3 zaštićena morska područja. Kako je vlada Crne Gore u prethodnoj godini proglasila 3 zaštićena morska područja, parkove prirode Plata, Muni, Katić i Stari Ulcinj, naš tim aktivno radi na izradi planova upravljanja za sva 3 područja, pa su i sva 3 ista u završnoj fazi. Samo upravljanje morskim područjima za nas predstavlja novinu i pravi izazov kako u organizacionom, tako i u funkcionalnom dijelu. Naše preduzeće je kroz dosadašnji rad steklo iskustvo iz oblasti edukacije, promocije i monitoringa životne sredine, a spremni smo u narednom periodu raditi na daljem unapređenju te širiti kapacitete i svoja znanja. U ovom smislu smatramo jako značajnim pridruživanje mreži upravljanja zaštićenih područja MedPan, te vjerujem da ćemo iskustvo i znanje kolege iz drugih zemalja članica ove organizacije biti od koristi za budući rad našeg preduzeća. Također vjerujemo da ćemo i mi kao punopravan član MedPana dati svoj maksimalni doprinos u radu organizacije i ostvarivanju zajedničkih ciljeva. U nadi da će u budućem periodu zaštićena područja u moru biti prepoznatljivost Crne Gore, želim vam uspješan rad tokom ove nedelje i još jednom poželim dobrodošlicu u Crnoj Gori i ugodan boravak. Hvala.
Thank you, Mrs. Minister, Mrs. Deputy Director. Thank you to Education Canals for these welcoming words. Thank you again for welcoming us here. As stressed in your words, it's particularly meaningful we felt to be here with this workshop and this particular topic on MPA management effectiveness in this moment that is so important when you just established your first 3 MPAs, and this is indeed an update and an insight into this process that will be presented now. So please, I will welcome the 2 speakers, Ivana and Maya also. Yes.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Good morning to everyone. I would also like, from my side, on behalf of our ministry, to greet you all. I already said a few words yesterday, but not all of you were here. So thank you for being here. It is really our pleasure, and especially to talk about the first MPAs in Montenegro, which is one of our favorite topics when it comes to nature protection. So this regional workshop is about management effectiveness. And we are aware that we are only at the beginning, but for my colleague from the public enterprise and myself, on behalf of the ministry, it was also important to present our experience, which we believe will be a good basis for future effective management or our MPAs. So in the following session, it would be a pleasure for us to hear from all of you and speakers from other sessions on their experience, but this is ours, although it is only the beginning. Okay. Okay. So you already heard about our nature parks, Platamuni, Katić, and Stari Ulcin. Here we put 3 maps, which are now not super visible, but just to have an idea on the surface and the position of these areas, which altogether are approximately near 5,000 hectares. We would also like to share with you that in the same year, the government of Montenegro put under preventive protection 2 locations in the Kotor Bay, which you will be able to visit tomorrow in the evening for the dinner. And now our ministry initiated the process of the preparation of the protection studies so that we can formally finalize these procedure. So the process of proclamation, and I know that some of you were involved together with our colleagues from the Institute for Marine Biology, our NGOs, was a long process in terms of data collection, international projects that were implemented, and finally the JEF project, which started a few years ago on MPAs, put all the data together and supported us with the preparation of protection studies. It was mentioned that law on nature protection is our legal precondition for MPAs. And for us, it is important to mention that the law has already been aligned with the important EU directives and international conventions. But right now we are in the also process of additionally aligning it with some final provisions. So different institutions, different levels were involved in this process. Our colleagues from NGO sectors, of course, research institutions, primarily Institute for Marine Biology, other ministries, so in charge for different sectors, fisheries, maritime activities, etc. So we really tried from the very beginning to have this multi-institutional and multi-sectoral involvement in order to somehow agree from the very beginning on how we want to proceed with this process. So 2021, the year for MPAs for Montenegro, it was a very favorable condition that we already had MPA manager appointed by the law. because usually in our country, but I know across the Mediterranean globally, it takes time for the manager to be appointed if it's not already by some legal document. Right after that, and my colleague Nemanja will tell you more about that, we started with the management plans, which we also think was a good step, of course, with the support of the JEF project and all of you, MedPan and our national colleagues, because also global, regional and national experiences that management plans come a lot of time after the proclamation. So that is why I say that right now we have the foundation for the future effective management of these areas. JEF project that I keep mentioning because I really have to, because they supported us a lot, but also other projects provided a lot of capacity buildings for different purposes, some equipment, supported consultation processes, and also an interesting document, which will be also mentioned a bit more on Friday, is the National Framework Plan for the Development of Coastal and Marine Protected Areas, which is a good baseline for future. So what is potentially now identified as valuable and how we need to proceed in order to be ready to know everyone's role as well in this process. So I already said a lot of things during my first slide, but I would like to highlight once again that our joint goal was really to ensure efficient implementation of MPA management plans through cooperation among the manager and also all the other authorities and NGO sector, because that's the only way towards the long-term conservation and restoration. I mentioned some of the international framework and support. We really tried to implement all these procedures and processes respecting international laws and procedures. So from Sustainable Development Goals to CBD Convention to Chapter 27 of the negotiation process with the European Commission, so different directives, then Natura 2000 processes, EU strategy for Adriatic and Ionian region. So somehow we really tried to implement all these, for example, Natura 2000 process for the marine area is just to be started now. But for these areas, our colleagues already filled in the forms which are for Natura 2000 obligatory, try to structure the database in a way that we don't need to do that job again. And a huge support of the JEF MPA project. There are, of course, challenges and the things that we already finalized. As main challenges, and I think that all of you would agree with us, is really integration in other sectoral policies of the MPA's protection measures, such as planning documents, but really all the others. We had a lot of talks with fishery and mariculture, for example, sectors. Then at this moment, generally at the national level, there is not a lot of experience. Maybe experience, yes, but we still need a lot of good practices for generally protected areas management at the national level. Then also national and local budget allocations. And we are very grateful because we have been lucky that by now we have had combinations of national budgets and regional or national projects. Then we are also working on further development of national legislation, and then the ambitious targets that have been mentioned about 30%, 10% of very strict protection. We should start thinking in terms what's really realistic for us, since the new biodiversity strategy is also coming after CBD COP, etc. So these are just some thoughts, maybe for our, not right now, but for our further discussion in these days. Of course, we should be ambitious, very ambitious, but also thinking in terms what is really realistic for us regionally and nationally, individually. I mentioned Sorry, that's it from my side. Now my colleague Nemanja will continue and maybe then we will close the presentation together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivana. I believe that this position is good point of view. I will continue my presentation in Montenegrin language. Dobar dan svima, dobrodošli još jednom u Crnu Goru i dobrodošli u naše zaštićeno područje MPA Katić. Moje ime je Nemanja Malovrazić i ja sam saradnik za zaštitu životne sredine u javnom preduzeću za upravljanje morskim dobrom. Danas i juče čuli smo nekoliko puta da je javno preduzeće za upravljanje morskim dobrom upravljač zaštićenih područja i negdje sam smatrao da bi trebali možda i da se upoznamo sa tim što zapravo naše preduzeće radi i koliko dugo postojimo i kojim sve stvarima se bavimo. Dakle, javno preduzeće osnovano je 1992. godine od strane Skupštine Crne Gore sa ciljem da se bavi, dakle, upravljanjem obale, odnosno zone morskog dobra i u skladu sa zakonom o morskom dobru. Glavni posao, odnosno neke nadležnosti glavne našeg preduzeća su upravljanje plažama Crne Gore i postizanje standarda kada je u smislu turističke opremljenosti i uređenosti kupališta na našoj obali. Pored toga, održavanje i zaštita obale, ulaganje u infrastrukturu i brojni infrastrukturni projekti, realizacija brojnih infrastrukturnih projekata koji se tiču unapređenja stanja na obali Crne Gore. Pored toga, od nedavno naše preduzeće ima i nadležnost kada su u pitanju upravljanje lukama i marinama, tačnije marinama i lukama od lokalnog značaja i od 2014. godine javno preduzeće ima i nadležnost zaštite životne sredine. Dakle, gotovo ono što je jako važno, dakle, još da napomenemo, dakle, rekli smo da je javno preduzeće osnovano od strane Skupštine Crne Gore, međutim, nadležno ministarstvo je Ministarstvo ekologije, prostornog planiranja i urbanizma. Međutim, pored ovog ministarstva, kontrolu rada našeg preduzeća obavljaju i Ministarstvo financija i Ministarstvo kapitalnih investicija. Dakle, već gotovo više od 30 godina naše preduzeće funkcioniše i bavi se, dakle, samom obalom. Kada je u pitanju konkretno zaštita životne sredine i upravljanje zaštićenim područjima, u ovom smislu, dakle, imamo iskustvo u realizaciji brojnih monitoring programa, redovnom praćenju kvaliteta morske vode za kupanje, praćenju procesa erozije na našoj obali i slično. I ono što zaista sa ponosom ističemo, to je ta dobra međunarodna saradnja i realizacija brojnih međunarodnih projekata koje je naše preduzeće u proteklom periodu realizovalo na našoj obali. Evo ga, dakle, kao što sam već i kazao, javno preduzeće upravlja zaštićenim područjima u zoni morskog dobra i ova područja na neki način možemo podijeliti na obalna i morska područja. Dakle, do sada na obali Crne Gore, dakle na ovom kopnenom dijelu, imamo 20 zaštićenih plaža koje su još 1968. godine zaštićeni kao spomenici prirode. Imamo pješčane dine na velikoj plaži u Ulcinju koji su također zajedno sa plažom, velikom plažom u Ulcinju zaštićeni također 68. godine. I imamo jedno močvarno područje, posebni rezervat prirode Tivatska solila, koje su zaštićene 2008. godine i do sada Tivatska solila su područje od međunarodnog značaja, močvarno područje od međunarodnog značaja i nalazi se na Ramsar listi, IBA područje, IPA područje i jedan ornitološki rezervat koji je zaista za ponos ne samo Crne Gore nego i cijele Evrope, ja vjerujem. Na ovom području, s obzirom da javno preduzeće ovim područjem upravlja, dakle, od 2014. godine kada je zakonom prepoznato kao upravljač zaštićenim područjima, veliki broj projekata i monitoringa, investicija, financija, veliki broj novca je uložen u ovo područje i zaista možemo da kažemo da smo od jedne deponije koja je bila na početku danas dobili jedno zaista reprezentativno zaštićeno područje u kojem imamo sve bolje stanje biodiverziteta i to nam je zaista odličan indikator da smo na pravom putu i da radimo pravu stvar. Mogu samo reći da smo 2008. godine kada je proglašeno zaštićeno područje na ovom rezervatu, dakle imali ukupno registrovanih oko 111 vrsta ptica, dok prošle godine kad smo radili monitoring imamo nešto oko 190 vrsta ptica koje se vraćaju i dolaze na Pirotska solena. Pored dakle ovih obalnih područja, tu su i naravno naša morska zaštićena područja. Od 2021. godine, kao što već i znate, Crna Gora je dobila 3 morska zaštićena područja, Park prirode Platamuni, Park prirode Katić i Park prirode Stari Ulcinj. Međutim, priča o zaštićenim područjima u Crnoj Gori ne počinje od prošle godine, već to traje duži niz godina. Kada je u pitanju Park prirode Katić, gdje se mi danas i nalazimo, sama zaštita i ideja o zaštiti ovog područja traje unazad 12 godina i naše preduzeće je tokom tih 12 godina radilo na edukaciji ne samo svojih kadrova, nego i lokalne zajednice. Učestvovali smo u brojnim projektima, brojnim inicijativama, sarađivali sa nevladinim organizacijama i svi zajedno dali neki svoj skroman doprinos da se i ovo područje, ali i sva ova 3 područja zaštite. Tako da negdje kad govorimo o tome da od 2021. godine imamo zaštićena područja, ja volim da kažem da o tome govorimo još mnogo ranije. Park prirode Platamuni imaju površine su negdje nešto više od 1000 hektara i nalaze se cijelom svojom teritorijom na području opštine Kotor. Park prirode Katić, gdje se i mi nalazimo, dakle imaju površinu od 2700 hektara i nalaze se na teritoriji 2 opštine, to je opština Budva i opština Bar. I ono je ujedno i najveće naše morsko zaštićeno područje i tu je najmlađe, ujedno i najmanje morsko zaštićeno područje Park prirode Stari Ulcinj, koji ima površinu nešto manje od 1000 hektara i nalazi se na teritorijama opštine Bar i opštine Ulcinj. Kada su u pitanju razlozi za zaštitu, naravno to su i uglavnom biodiverzitet i staništa koja se mogu naći na ovim morskim zaštićenim područjima. Ono što siguran sam većina vas i zna, u morskim zaštićenim područjima kod nas trenutno nemamo no-take zona, dakle to su uglavnom 2. i 3. zona zaštite definisane i razlozi za zaštitu su uglavnom, kao što vidite, u sva 3 ova zaštićena područja staništa Posedonije okeanike kada govorimo o moru. Međutim, ono što je još jako važno kada su u pitanju staništa, na primjer za Platamune, imamo i morske pećine koje smo prepoznali kao jako važne i planiramo u narednom periodu nastaviti i monitoring morske medvjedice jer vjerujemo da se u ovim pećinama može registrovati i njen ponovni dolazak. Pored toga, dakle, u zaštićenom području Stari Ulcinj imamo naravno i koralegene biocenoza Xenella cannabina. Tu su još i vrste od značaja za zaštitu, opet kada govorimo o moru, Posedonija, Cimodoteanodoza, Litofaga, Pina nobilis i tako dalje. No, ova morska područja zapravo nisu samo morska, nego to su integrisana obalna i morska zaštićena područja. Dakle, u okviru zaštite ulazi taj jedan uži dio obale koji je također zaštićen zajedno sa cijelim MPA-om i u ovom obalnom dijelu, kada govorimo o staništima, posebno važnim ističu se staništa pješčane naše istjenovite obale sa endemičnim vrstama roda Limonium, a kada su u pitanju vrste, Euphorbia dendroides je vrsta koja je prepoznata od značaja za zaštitu za Park prirode Platamuni i Katić. Kada je u pitanju Stari Ulcinj, od tih kopnenih vrsta tu je Percutilex također prepoznat kao jedan od značajnih vrsta koje treba štititi u ovim zonama. Kao što ste već i čuli i juče i danas, javno preduzeće zajedno sa Ministarstvom ekologije, prostornog planiranja i urbanizma i zajedno sa nevladinim sektorom i brojnim projektima koji se realizuju u Crnoj Gori, kao jedan od njih je projekat GEF, Uspjeli smo da već preduzmemo brojne aktivnosti na zaštiti ova 3 morska zaštićena područja. Do sada ostvarili smo saradnju sa lokalnim i nacionalnim stakeholderima. U fazi smo, dakle, pripreme sva 3 plana upravljanja, to je već u finalnoj fazi. Jedan plan je gotovo i usvojen, dok su ostale još 2 plana koja su, bukvalno prolaze sad te neke administrativne procedure prije samog usvajanja. Do sada, dakle, organizovane su, a i mi smo učestvovali kao preduzeće u brojnim treninzima i radionicama za naše zaposlene, sa posebnim akcentom na naše zaštitare koji će u narednom periodu čuvati ova morska zaštićena područja. Uspjeli smo, dakle, da i obilježimo zaštićena područja sa morske strane u cilju informisanosti turista, građana i ljudi koji posjećuju zaštićeno područje da zapravo ulaze u zonu zaštite i da za ovu zonu postoje određena pravila ponašanja koje se svi mi moramo pridržavati. Naravno, pokušali smo i da napravimo naša zaštićena područja vidljivijim, pa smo izradili logotipove, pripremili smo jedan promotivni video, kratak video o ova 3 zaštićena područja koje ćemo i pogledati na kraju prezentacije. A ono što planiramo da radimo u narednom periodu, naravno ovo je samo početak, pred nama je veliki posao i ono što i dalje planiramo da radimo, to je da unapređujemo svoje znanje i znanje naših zaposlenih u javnom preduzeću kada je u pitanju zaštita životne sredine i zaštita prirode, posebno s akcentom na morska zaštićena područja. Plan nam je da osnujemo i sektor zaštite u našem preduzeću. Već postoje određeni koraci u tom pravcu, međutim administrativna procedura unutar preduzeća malo traje, tako da planiramo da će i to biti uskoro realizovano. Naravno, nastavljamo sa obilježavanjem sva 3 morska zaštićena područja. Nastavljamo i saradnju sa lokalnim stanovništvom i nacionalnim institucijama i nevladinim sektorom. I ono što nam je naravno u fokusu u narednih 5 godina, to je implementacija naših planova upravljanja od 2023. do 2027. godine. Do sada smo, dakle, mnogo toga uradili, imamo iskustva kada su u pitanju i divatska stvorila i pješčane dine, imamo iskustva i u realizaciji brojnih projekata kao što su IPA projekti, brojni drugi međunarodnih sad fondova, da ne preciziram, ne mogu, dakle, veliki broj projekata, veliki broj fondova, veliko iskustvo. Ono što smo, dakle, uspjeli kroz te projekte da uradimo jeste da utičemo na podizanje svijesti o značaju zaštite životne sredine i naše obale. Uspjeli smo da restauriramo jednu pješčanu dinu koja je bila uništena na velikoj plaži. Uspjeli smo da Tivatska solila promovišemo kao novu destinaciju turističku. Uspjeli smo ujedno i da ih zaštitimo i biodiverzitet na ovom području. Trenutno u realizaciji projekat IPAT koji realizujemo sa kolegama iz Hrvatske i Bosne i Hercegovine, u okviru kojeg ćemo dobiti i novi interpretativni centar za posjetioce. Tako da dosta smo radili, dosta toga radimo, ali smo spremni da i dalje sarađujemo sa svima vama, sa drugim organizacijama, institucijama, kako bismo im unaprijedili svoja znanja i postigli možda i bolje rezultate kada je u pitanju zaštite životne sredine na našoj obali. Hvala vam i evo za kraj predlažem da pogledamo jedan video koji smo pripremili, a koji sam vam malo prije spomenuo, i nakon toga, naravno, ukoliko imate neko pitanje, ja i Ivana vam stojimo na raspolaganju. Hvala.
Thank you very much, Ivana and Nemanja, for this introduction to this process, to these first important steps and achievements that you took, for sharing also perspectives on your challenges, all what is in front of you now, and also for showing these incredible images of these natural values that are to protect in your country. Well, I think everyone is really looking forward to go in the field tomorrow morning now, even more than we were before. You are showing us these images, and we'll get the chance, if the weather allows, but it seems it will, to go around Cottage MPA tomorrow. So thank you very much again. We will continue this opening plenary session with providing you with an introduction, brief introduction to the participation to the program, to the topic of this workshop, with my colleague Susan Gallon, our scientific officer, with Laurent Sourbès from NECA, Zakynthos National Marine Park, the vice president of our network, Carol Martinez, colleague from the Secretariat also, and also with Asma Kerigi from the SPARAC. Well, we'll maybe not all go together right now on the sitting, but we can move there. And we'll be go back on the first presentation. So we'll try to be quick. We thought it was important still to briefly provide you with information on the participation. Who are you? So who are you? Well, this was the last update we made. So 300 participants altogether. 178 on site, must be a little less because we always have last minute cancellation. But it's important to mention here again that the participation is covering almost the entire Mediterranean basin, 21 countries, and beyond the Med, we have the participation from other 18 countries. We are glad, of course, that more than half of the participants are indeed MPAs, either managers, authorities responsible for MPAs, networks of MPA managers, but we're also glad, of course, to have here the participation of many organizations that are striving, like MedPan, to support MPAs, and also the participation of other sectors, obviously. Worth to mention, because it's not always the case, that women are in majority in this workshop. So, the overall objective of this workshop as an experience sharing workshop is for you all, MPA managers, other actors involved with MPAs, to share your experiences, to share information, your skills, your expertise, and that to take stock of the best practices, the best approaches to improve and evaluate the effectiveness of MPA management in order to achieve tangible conservation outcomes. Recalling here that the primary objective of an MPA is always nature conservation, even though it's not the only objective, but it's worth recalling it always. So I would like to thank the 14 organizations you see here who contributed as part of the technical steering committee to support us in the process of organizing this workshop, helping us and supporting us in defining the focus and the specific objectives of this workshop that we recall here. The first objective, we believe, is to take time here in this workshop to exchange on what are your visions and understanding of what is MPA management effectiveness, as we believe it's not granted that everyone has the same understanding. So as soon as today in this plenary, we will dedicate a little time with a discussion panel to exchange and provide highlights from several participants in this workshop on their understanding and vision of what is MPA management effectiveness. So of course it's also, and this is what is in like many of the discussion sessions that will start after this plenary session, The objective is also, of course, that together we can share, identify, and discuss drivers, enabling factors that allow effective MPA management. Well, MPA management effectiveness is a lot also about, of course, assessing. So here will be to share on your methodologies, successful methodologies to assessing MPA performance in order to allow adaptive management, and also to inform and have feedback from the MPAs that have experienced management effectiveness framework, either those that are developed or requested by the CBD, by the IUCN, at the Barcelona Convention level, by the EU Commission, and sometimes also by donors. To contribute also to, as much as we can, to help developing and harmonizing kind of standard indicators to allow MPA management effectiveness. We feel it's also very important here to address as an objective sharing on good practices on how communicating the result, the ecological outcomes of the MPA and the value of the MPA to demonstrate socioeconomic benefits and better engage all categories of stakeholders, either technical, non-technical stakeholders, investors. And finally, this workshop is also to gain feedback, and we have very good recommendations that will help contribute feeding into the strategy of our network, MedPan, and the strategy of other networks that are like us supporting MPAs in the Med and beyond. So, to comment, if you remember, for those of you a few months ago, pre-registered and answered the call for contribution to this workshop, we promised that we would build the program of the workshop with you, and this is what we strive to do. So, in this approach, we try to use the Mediterranean, the Med MPA roadmap beyond the post-2020 Med MPA roadmap as a guiding framework to organize this workshop. So maybe not of you, but my colleague Carol will provide you with an update, and Asma will provide you with an update on this extensive consultation process, which we call the roadmap process, that we are coordinating MedPan together with our colleagues of the SPARAC, and for this post-2020 roadmap also with colleagues of VDF, and more generally with all the MPA managers and stakeholders, hundreds of them who participated in this consultation process, to define a number like 33 of very operational recommendations that we believe are all in this document striving to support MPA management effectiveness. So as we want this roadmap to be a blueprint, a living document, this is what we try to do here, using it as a guiding framework for this workshop. So we asked you, if you remember, for the review, who answered this questionnaire, to prioritize among 33 recommendations, topics derived from the recommendations of the roadmap, those which you believed in this workshop on MPA management effectiveness were the most important to address. So we considered those at ranking on the top, which you see here, plus two others that didn't rank so much. One on decentralized governance, because there were a lot also of contributions from your side on decentralized and shared governance, which we believe were very important to share and showcase in this workshop and discuss in this workshop. And also gender equity in all aspects of MPA creation and management. That is a recommendation of the roadmap that, not surprisingly, didn't rank much when we asked you, but we believe this is a topic that is very important to address, and which we decided to address in one of the discussion sessions from the broader perspective of advancing on equity, diversity equity in all aspects. So we received 84 contribution proposals and selected 53 of those that were connected properly to these topics, which are the topics of the discussion sessions that will start after this plenary session. So this is your program with 12 discussion sessions that we run in parallel, with each of them specific objectives. This opening session, a closing plenary session that will be to share the main conclusions and recommendations from these discussion sessions. As mentioned, the field trip around Cottage MPA that we are all looking forward to tomorrow morning. And side events also, as soon as tonight with the Cogito cocktail. Cogito is a project, multi-partner project where MedPan is involved, that is to support sustainable and integrated management of insular and coastal and marine areas. So will be a cocktail tonight where you are all, of course, welcome to participate. And on the 28th, after the workshop, after the closing session, a full day dedicated to three side events. A side event on the MedPan small ground scheme, small project. A closed event here on the JEF Inception workshop, a project that MedPan is coordinating together with the MedFund. The resilience for MPAs, that is a tool developed as part of the EU Ocean Governance Project. So as expected results, as we said, we hope that out of these discussions we will have, we'll come up with operational recommendations to feed into your own strategies, to feed your needs first, and also to feed into the strategies of MedPan and all those other networks of MPA managers and actors that are supporting MPA management effectiveness in the Med and beyond. So, of course, here is a matter also for like thanking again all those who are supporting this workshop. So I mentioned already the technical steering committee supporting us, of course, our host partners. Again, a very big thank you for welcoming us here in your beautiful country, and all these projects and donors that are making it possible, this workshop, and more generally, allowing us to implement the MedPan strategy and to, as much as possible, contribute to supporting MPAs. And I think you can follow.
Good morning, everyone. So I will continue from Pierre, just to provide you with a quick status on where we stand for management effectiveness in Mediterranean MPA, and also challenges to assess management effectiveness. So as you heard already this morning, it's key to assess MPA management effectiveness, not only to adapt and refine management measure adopted, but also to reinforce the legitimacy, to prove that they are working. And also, as was mentioned this morning, for years, we mainly focus on the quantitative aspect of MPA, on surface area, on numbers of MPA that were in the Mediterranean and everywhere. And more recently, we are moving to qualitative aspect. And management effectiveness is there to assess that qualitative aspect of marine protected area. On this graph, you can see the surface and the number of marine protected area in the Mediterranean. So on your right, you've got the percentage of surface coverage of marine protected area in the Mediterranean, we are around 8.3% today. And on the left, you've got the number of marine protected area. So this is also a key target of the post-2020 framework. It's on the agenda of the Convention of Biological Diversity, of the European Commission Green Deal, and on the post-2020 MPA and OSCM strategy adopted under the Barcelona Convention. So you know this map, but we thought it was important to show it again. This is the map of marine protected area in the Mediterranean. You have three types of marine protected area in the Mediterranean. National MPAs, there are more than 75 different types of national designation in the Med. Regional MPA, those are the Natura 2000 sites adopted at the EU level. And then one international MPA, it's the dark blue, it's the Pelagos Sanctuary dedicated to the protection of marine mammal in the Mediterranean. So in the last 4 years, the last status for marine protected area was carried out in 2016. There was 6.5% of marine protected area at that time. We are now, as I said, 8.3. So we increased by 2 points the surface of marine protected in the Mediterranean, still short of the 2020 target that was to reach 10%, and quite far from the 2030 target that may be at the international level to reach 30%, but that has already been adopted at the EU and at the Mediterranean level. 97% of these MPA in the Mediterranean are in EU countries. And since 2016, there's been no increase in the surface area of no-take zone. It was 0.04% in 2016. We are at the same level today, 0.04, as there was only 50 kilometers square created of no-take zone in the last 4 years. So a challenge ahead there too. So we know that marine protected areas are a key tool for environmental conservation if they are effectively managed. And this is why we are here today. We also know that ecological and socio-economic benefits can only exist if the MPA are effectively managed. And this is just a pie showing you that today in the Mediterranean, only half of the marine protected area have a management plan, either partially implemented or fully implemented. So there's a scope for improvement, and this is why we are here today.
Donc, dans ce cadre-là, on a décidé d'avoir un peu de l'information par rapport aux gestionnaires et à savoir dans quelle mesure les conditions initiales pour atteindre une efficacité étaient réunies. Par exemple, à savoir un conseil d'administration, avoir un budget, avoir aussi des employés, donc une équipe permanente qui va être sur le site et un système de suivi, un système aussi de mise en œuvre de la surveillance. Donc tout ça, en fait, nous montre par rapport, si vous voulez, aux questionnaires qui ont été répondus, qui constituent à peu près 60% du total d'aires marines protégées. On est quand même dans un niveau de à peu près un quart de réponses positives par rapport à ces moyens nécessaires, ces moyens qui, s'ils ne sont pas réunis, déjà rendent l'efficacité très discutable et quasiment impossible à atteindre. Donc, on a besoin d'augmenter ces moyens, on a besoin aussi de considérer ces éléments-là qui sont nécessaires avant d'atteindre l'efficacité, qui sont nécessaires à être réunis, donc d'ores et déjà améliorer ce qui existe déjà. Ici, un exemple, par exemple, qui concerne l'équipement qui est nécessaire à la gestion d'une aire marine protégée. On peut voir que 36% des réponses, en fait, considèrent que l'équipement est insuffisant. Pour citer les bouées, pour citer les bateaux de surveillance, de suivi scientifique, de plongée, aussi la présence d'un bureau pour pouvoir travailler, pour pouvoir s'asseoir, mais aussi pour pouvoir analyser les données qui ont été récupérées. Et donc, tous ces éléments-là qui font que il y a des manques il y a des manques qui doivent être comblés déjà par rapport à ce qui existe. Donc, quand on parle de créer de nouvelles aires marines protégées, il est évident qu'il y a un besoin qui est crucial, mais déjà faire en sorte que ce que l'on a soit opérationnel avec les moyens nécessaires. Ici, on rappelle aussi, et ce sont les gestionnaires qui ont répondu à ce questionnaire, c'est-à-dire qu'il y a aussi des objectifs. Donc, on doit considérer que par rapport aux objectifs qui ont en fait été la base de la création de ces aires marines protégées, ces objectifs de conservation, est-ce qu'ils sont atteints? Donc, en ce qui concerne la plupart des réponses qui concernent les habitats, qui concernent en fait les espèces, on voit que le niveau, par rapport le gestionnaire juge que le niveau atteint est très peu satisfaisant. Il est assez limité en fait. Donc, il y a aussi de ce point de vue-là une amélioration à faire parce qu'il ne faut pas oublier que les aires marines protégées, ça a été cité, sont créées justement pour atteindre des objectifs de conservation. Donc, il faut toujours considérer que les moyens qui sont nécessaires sont aussi avec une finalité et cette finalité doit être atteinte, ce qui nécessite aussi, bien sûr, plus d'informations, ce qui nécessite aussi plus de recherche, aussi plus d'informations scientifiques. Donc, tous ces éléments qui vont faire qu'il va y avoir une efficacité de la gestion. Ça, le résultat en fait d'une enquête qui a été faite, qui va constituer des éléments qui vont être repris dans les statuts des aires marines protégées. Et donc, par rapport à ce que l'on va discuter ces jours-ci, ce sont des éléments qui vont être remis en question et examinés pour voir dans quelle mesure on peut améliorer justement ces objectifs-là. Merci. C'est Carole, le tour de Carole. Yes, man.
Merci, Laurent. Good morning, everyone. Dobro jutro. Well, first, I invite you to make your hands free. No phone, no headsets, because we are going to use them. I'm Asma Khriji. I'm from the SPARAC, the Mediterranean Biodiversity Center of the Barcelona Convention. And I'm here to present the post-2020 MPA roadmap with Carole from MedPan. Well, before going to this boring slide that you all know from 2020, I invite those who already contributed at any point of the process of the creation and finalization of the roadmap. If you remember the limiting factors, questionnaires, virtual forum sessions, the forum in Monaco or online, please just make your hand like this. Just raise your hand if you have contributed. Well, not so high. I know you are super excited, but just like here. And then, so yeah. And then if you are also willing to contribute with us more in the coming steps, please raise your other hand. So you have two hands that are free, both of them, both, yeah. And now just clap because we really appreciate your contribution. And the ones who just raised just one hand, you can do like a high five with a person just next to you. But you are going to contribute, and Carole will explain this more because it's not finalized. So the story began in 2012 when we first developed the roadmap, MedPan and SPARAC in Antalya, and then we evaluated in 2016. It was updated, and then now in 2021, we have this new version for the post-2020 era. And all those steps, for the ones who clapped, you have been somewhere here, even in the online survey where we have identified the limiting factor that hinder the achievement of MPA targets. Or, for example, in the online working groups, the 7 online working groups, I think, where we have been discussing those limiting factors and then start thinking about some recommendations and some recommendations to respond to those limiting factors. And then in this online process, the final step was the virtual forum sessions where we have discussed about the recommendations. And as the final step of this process in Monaco, in December 2021, we have had the forum sessions and also online that were in Monaco and online, where we have presented for all of you the recommendations that were emerged from the online process. And then also we have discussed some actions, some concrete actions, how we can reach and how we can apply those recommendations, with also some targets and some indicators and the geographic scope. So we have this version that was pre-finalized, if I may say, because then we have received your feedback from, I don't know, like 40 sessions in the forum, something like that. It was like huge feedback from all of you there. And we have put them in like more than 100 pages with 500 comments that our super poor consultants went through them. And we also tried as the Medpan and Sparak to go through all those comments, to integrate them, to update the version that we have shared in Monaco. So we have then this final updated roadmap that is now ready. It was just finalized, really like finalized 3 times. And just to recall its objective. So why these documents? Why we have these documents here? We have already some other documents we have done, but why this one now? So its ultimate objective is to reinforce and support the already existing frameworks. For instance, the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework that calls for the famous, the well-known 30 by 30. But then this at international level, but then in our home here in the Mediterranean, at our scale, we have the post-2020 marine and coastal protected areas, and also the other effective area-based conservation measures. That is the strategy that is adopted by the Barcelona Convention. So the roadmap come here to really reinforce and support the implementation of those international and regional strategies. Oops. So more or less in an overview, our roadmap is based on 6 areas, 6 thematic axes that are the policy governance, legislation and enforcement, management knowledge, capacity and awareness, sustainable financing, and the rest. Cross-cutting topics such as the beyond MPA, such as the gender equality, etc., etc. And under each thematic area, we have like specific actions, as I said, with indicators, with the priority regions, etc. I will leave the floor to Carole now to explain the rest of the process.
Thank you very much, Asma. So as you kindly stress, behind this document, behind this roadmap, there are people, there are organizations, there are willingness. So the virtue of this document is not only to become, but actually to be a living document. So we have to share widely its ownership with as many organizations, people, initiatives as possible in our region. So how to do so? What is our road ahead? We will actually follow 3 main paths. Boosting the implementation of MPA policy commitments, not only trying to translate the international commitments and framework, but also the regional one, the European one, and the national one, but as well fostering the buy-in of all stakeholders to involve them, to engage them into its implementation, and as well to focus on priority action and partnership. So to start with the first one, in terms of policy, we have already started, as you can see, with the elaboration of this complementary document, namely the MEDPAM policy paper. This document has been elaborated on the basis of this roadmap, but as well it has benefited with a lot of findings, a lot of lessons learned from many projects, from many MPA managers, and feedback from stakeholders. So this document is really willing to articulate, to translate into more operational recommendation, the key strategic objective and recommendation of the roadmap. But this document is as well a living one. So what we do expect from you during this workshop is to challenge as well the content of this recommendation, to help us to fine-tune them in order to make sure that these recommendations that are targeting all the relevant level of decision-making from the local, the national, the regional one, the European, and also the international one can really support your activities on a daily basis. Regarding the two other paths, more related to the engagement, the promotion of the roadmap, we will renew a call for commitment that was already launched for the MPA forum. And to do so, actually, we will set up a dedicated mechanism that is inspired from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 14, the one dedicated to ocean, life below waters, but as well other regional commitments, system mechanism to make sure that this mechanism is really tailored to our needs and it's really adjusted to the implementation of our common roadmap. Today, we have received 27 regional commitments. It's great, but as you can guess, it's not enough. So we definitely count on you as well to rely on our community and to make commitment for its implementation at your own level. There is no specific or targeted level of implementation. All commitments are welcome, even individual commitments. So we will definitely disclose, share those commitments on this new dedicated mechanism to promote, to showcase the implementation of the roadmap, but as well to monitor how this roadmap is coming to life, what kind of activities has been implemented. So again, I thank you very much, and I do count on you on your comment and future commitment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Carol. So now is the time we will begin really with effectiveness. So the first thing, and it was mentioned this morning, is to how to define what is effectiveness. You know, in our life is the same. We don't know really we want to be effective, but what is effectiveness in reality? So we asked people when they registered for this workshop to define, just to show maybe the previous one. No. This one. So we got 174 definitions. Everybody has a different notion or different, is giving a different meaning of that. So in fact, there are some common words, and this is this idea that you have to protect, to engage stakeholders, capacities, surveillance, but we need a more complete definition. So that's why today we invited some a panel of 4 people that will read and tell us how they consider what is effectiveness in the management. On the other hand, we have to adapt or to adopt a definition of this effectiveness that we will follow 3 days. We will have it always as something, as an objective to reach what is effectiveness. So it was defined by the scientific committee, and we will discuss about that. But I believe that it's important as a first step to hear from people that are involved in the management of protected areas, what is effectiveness, what they consider is important in their life to reach their goals. So I will invite Tina Santry on the floor, Eli El Haddad from the Tina is from the Institute of the Republic of Slovenia for Nature Conservation. Eli El Haddad, Society for the Protection of Nature, Lebanon. Funda Koch, Mediterranean Conservation Society from Turkey. And Luis Fatih Ioannou from the Cyprus Marine and Maritime Institute of Cyprus. So please, you will read, because you send our first definition, so you will read it, or you will also mention what is important in this definition, what are the keywords for you, because you consider that in your case, it's a prerequisite. You cannot, you have to reach those objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. So I highlighted a few keywords that came to my mind when thinking about this question. And the first was resilient to impact. And resilient to impact in the meaning that it's resilient to anthropogenic, as in also impact of natural origin. And in order to combat with the impact, may it be anthropogenic or natural, that enforces changes in the MPAs, it is important that the MPAs are well equipped, be it in terms of sufficient number of staff with appropriate knowledge and work experience in the field of MPA management, and in terms of financial needs, which allow MPAs to prepare and combat this kind of change. I also emphasize that the MPAs need to have a valid management plan, meaning that a valid management plan is in a sense that it has defined conservation goals, which are natural and social economic. And these goals have to be reached in a step-by-step manner. So this management plan has to have a guide, so to say, and how these goals can be reached and achieved in a short-term and a long-term emphasis. And also it's very important that this management plan has a well-prepared financial program as well that follows the assigned management goals. I also emphasize that in order for an MPA to be effective and effectively managed, the community, the region, and the country it is in has to value it as a prized possession, and in the sense that it feels proud to be part of an MPA, or that MPAs are part of the country or the region. So I don't know if you had the time to walk around the area where our venue is this year of our workshop, but there's a very nice table outside, or how to say, which is representing the cottage MPA area. And it is explaining to the local community what are the values of this area. And by explaining the values of an MPA, it actually empowers the people to understand why it is here, why it is in the area. And this way it becomes also people can advocate for the area and understand it, and also basically become managers and advocates for the MPA themselves. So these are my keywords. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Tina. So Eli, you got the floor.
Okay, so hello everyone, and thank you for this opportunity. Technically for us at SPNL, we work on the concept called HEMA, which is a community-based conservation approach that we learned from our ancestors and from the Arabic Peninsula, where everyone was aware that resources are not forever, that we should like really get concerned about the loss of resources, and we need to be sustainable. And this is the importance of when we as the management bodies or scientific people or everyone like that is present today to learn from the local community of these lands, because they survived here for like centuries. And we got this idea from them, and we adopted this concept, which is called HEMA, and we added our scientific and our technical support. And this way, we believe that efficient management of the protected area, marine protected area, for instance, is achieved because local people are the people who lives in the area that we conserve. So we need to make sure that these people are involved in the monitoring and the decision making. They feel like there is some ownership for this management plan that, sorry, I'm shaking. So for the management plan that we are developing with them from the first step to the last step, and to end it was like the advocacy and the adoption of this management plan by small governmental bodies and the main governmental body of the country. For example, at SPNL, we work with the municipality as a decentralized concept because we believe sometimes going to centralized things could be more complicated than bureaucracy, and it will take forever to make a simple decision. So we work with a municipality that knows how to speak the language of people, so we can make sure that this decisions or any like guidelines that we need to deliver to these people is technically well delivered, and they understand that we are here to make sure that this area is well managed in the best way, to make sure like the socio-political, the ecological, and the economic aspects are all considered in under one umbrella to achieve, I hope, an efficient management for protected areas. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Celine. So, Funda, if you want to give.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone. This is Funda from Mediterranean Conservation Society from Turkey. We're working in two different special environmental protected areas, and it's a huge area, by the way. Some of you, I think, are familiar with Turkey project. We posted some of you in 2019 in Gökova Bay. The main pillars, I think, about the effectiveness starts from the designation, and it covers all the phases of the MPA management. So the pillars are first the priority sites, the species, and it means protection, but it needs to have the dimension of people, which is quite important. And then the tackling IUU illegal, unregulated, unreported fishing activities. So when I had the definition, by the way, I didn't remember that I sent something like this. Maybe it's been a long time, but yeah, I did. So when I made the definition, I think those were the pillars, and it was about a well-defined area, and tackling IUU activities with enforcement, active enforcement, and implementation, of course, of a management plan, for example, in a well-defined area, in harmony with the people living in the zone we are working in.
Thanks a lot, Linda. So, Luis, it's your turn.
Thank you. And thank you for trying to spell my surname. It's so difficult. I'm sorry for that. Anyway, thank you for inviting me in this panel. I admit also that I had to go and reread what I wrote many months ago. Thankfully, I still agree with them. But taking inspiration from yesterday's talk by the president of MedPan, I think that I will reevaluate it and adjust it and make it and upgrade it and make it better probably because I mentioned in that statement that of course you need to first of all identify the areas that are important, go through the procedure of proposing it and designating with the authorities. Between that and the previous step, you need to liaise with all the stakeholders that are important in the area, the local stakeholders and others. And of course, as others said, you need to have them on board and make them feel like they own it, a sense of belonging, so that they themselves will reinforce the targets. And then, of course, you have to have a proper management plan. But what I want to change, and I didn't add in my previous statement, is that this management plan has to, of course, be evaluated and reevaluated constantly, because a management plan, an MPA is a dynamic system, just like everything in nature, has to be evaluated and adjust. Otherwise, it will not reach its goal, which is, of course, the protection, conservation, but also at the same time, the keeping the socioeconomic part and the human aspect, the cultural heritage aspect at the same level in a successful way. So yeah, I think that evaluation, reevaluation, reassessment, and adjusting these plans based on the new situation is key. And then, of course, you need to also do proper surveillance and enforcement of the regulations. Because without that, then it's a problem. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Louis. Yes, supposed also adaptive management. So this is the definition you will see, and you will consider that is the one that was chosen by the scientific committee. It's a way to gather all the words together and have something that is a sentence. And it's quite a little bit complicated, but anyway, we define effective management of MPAs as the one which proposed and carried out by MPA manager with the participation of local stakeholders, addresses all the conservation issues detected in the MPA from a socially and ecologically equitable perspective, addresses those issues using all the necessary human, technical, and financial resources, is supported by the best available scientific information, produce verifiable conservation and social outcomes, fully evaluates the result of its action, and finally modifies its course of action according to the result of the evaluation process. So if you can read it once, it's very difficult, but it's the idea to have all the words together that are important. So this is how we consider. I don't know if we have the time a little bit. If somebody in here can comment on that definition, or something maybe we forgot or it's not mentioned here, but it's crucial to be mentioned, just tell us. Yeah, I have to say it's a little bit complicated and heavy, but there are so many meanings in this effectiveness, how to reach it and not to forget anything.
Yes, perhaps compliance could be a concept, short concept.
Yes.
Thank you. Maybe to add communication also, I mean, achievement of achievement the goals of protection and achievement of important of MBA areas, and of course the communication among the stakeholders.
Okay, thank you. So, yeah, Asma.
Yeah, it's a bit long, but I try to read it and understand it. Well, for me, the second line is not only the local stakeholders, it's with the relevant stakeholders, MPA manager, because we should not exclude other stakeholders that are not here. The local ones are part from the relevant ones, so not only the local. And then I would like to propose to change issues to challenges. Issues is very, very negative. Maybe challenges is more I don't know, I see more challenges than issues.
Still, you have to define what are challenges. Issues, sometimes it's quite obvious.
Thank you. Donc, I think it's more than a participation of local stakeholders, but collaboration and collaboration of the stakeholders. They're more than participation. It's a sort of the collaboration of all the stakeholders and populations. It's a very important thing for the effectiveness of the MPA. Thank you.
Sorry, but yeah, okay, there are a lot of candidates.
Thank you. I want to just add two phrases or word, gender. You write social equity, so I think that gender and economic also, because some MPA are very concerned with this issue.
Do you mean, Sana, maybe equity in all aspects?
Okay. And sustainable development.
Thank you. And not only to evaluate the results of our actions, but to evaluate also the governance body itself to verify if we have the relevant stakeholders around the table every time we need.
Yes, it's very interesting because in fact, in the sessions we will have, we will deal with those themes, all those about governance, about development, about equity, about local stakeholders, and also conflicts and issues. So this is exactly the spirit of this workshop, to mention, to deal with all those topics. So is there any other comment? No. So maybe we will have the coffee break. So we thank you a lot.
Yes, so you notice like that we are a little late. So we are 30 minutes late on the agenda's plan. So what we think, it's okay. What we think is the best is that we shift the program of these 30 minutes. So still, because you all need this 30 minutes break, we need this 1 hour and a half then for lunch. So we will just shift the agenda, and so we should be back. So as you understood, discussion sessions will run in parallel in 3 different rooms. You choose your sessions and your room, and we will get started in half an hour at 11:30 and have lunch at 1. Thank you very much.